We're back in Boston, theCUBE's coverage of Reinforce 2022. My name is Dave Vellante. Dave Hatfield is here. He's the co-CEO of Lacework. Dave, great to see you again. Hat.
Thanks, Dave.
You still go by Hat?
Hat's good for me, Hat's good.
Right, cool.
When you call me David, I'm in trouble for something, so just call me Hat for now.
Yeah, like my mom, David Paul.
Exactly.
All right, so give us the update. I mean, you guys have been on a tear. Obviously, the techlash, I mean,
Yep.
a company like yours that has raised so much money, you got to be careful, but still, I'm sure you're not taking the foot off the gas. What's the update?
Yeah, no, we're super focused on our mission. We want to deliver cloud security for everybody, make it easier for developers and builders to do their thing. And we're fortunate to be in a situation where people are in the early innings of moving to the cloud. So our customers, largely digital natives and now increasingly cloud migrants, are recognizing that in order to build fast in the cloud, they need to have a different approach to security. And it used to be that you're either going to be really secure or really fast, and we wanted to create a platform that allowed you to have both.
Yeah, so when you first came in theCUBE, you described it, we're the first company, and at the time I think you were the only company, thinking about security as a data problem.
Yeah.
Explain what that means.
Well, when you move to the cloud, there's literally a quintillion data sets that are out there, and it's doubling every several days or whatever, and so it creates a massive problem in that the attack surface grows. And different than when you're securing a data center or a device where you have a very fixed asset, you kind of put things around it and you kind of know how to do it. When you move to this shared, ephemeral, massive scale environment, you can't write rules and do security the way you used to do it for data centers and devices. And so the insight for us was the risk was the data, the upside was the data, and so if you can harness all of this data, ingest it, process it, contextualize it, in the context of creating a baseline of what normal is for a company, and then monitor it constantly in real time, figure out, identify abnormal activity, you can deliver a security posture for a company unlike anything else before. Because it used to be, you'd write a rule, you have a known adversary or a bad guy that's out there, and you constantly try and keep up with them for a very specific attack surface. But when you move to the cloud, the attack surface is too broad. And so the risk of the massive amount of data is also the solution, which is how do you harness it and use it with machine learning and AI to solve these problems.
So I feel like for CISOs, the cloud is now becoming the first line of defense, the CISO is now the second line, maybe the auditing is the third line, I don't know. But so, how do you work with AWS? You mentioned, quadrillion, we heard, I think it was Stephen Schmidt who talked about in his keynote, a quadrillion, data points a month or whatever it was, that's 15 zeros, mind-boggling.
Yeah.
How do you interact with AWS? Where's your data come from? Are you able to inspect that AWS data? Is it all your own kind of first-party data? How does that all work?
Yeah, so we love AWS. I mean, we ultimately started out our company building our own service, on AWS. We're the first cloud native, built on the cloud, for the cloud, leveraging data and harnessing it. So AWS enabled us to do that, and partners like Snowflake and others allowed us to do that. But we are a multi-cloud solution too, so we allow builders and customers to be able to have choice. But we go deep with AWS and say the shared responsibility model they came up with partners in themselves to say, all right, who ultimately owns security? Like, where's the responsibility? And AWS does a great job on database, storage, compute, networking. The customer's responsible for the OS, the platform, the workloads, the applications, et cetera, and the data. And that's really where we come in and kind of help customers secure their posture across all of their cloud environments. And so we take CloudTrail data, we look at all of the network data, we look at configuration data, we look at rules-based data and policies that customers might have. Anything we can get our hands on to be able to ingest into our machine learning models. And everybody knows the more data you put into a machine learning model, the finer grain it's going to be, the more insightful and the more impactful it's going to be. So the really hard computer science problem that we set out to go do 7 years ago when we founded the company was figure out a way to ingest, process, and contextualize massive amounts of data from multiple streams and to make sense out of it. And in the traditional way of protecting customers' environments, you write a rule and you have this linear sort of connection to alerts. And so if you really want to tighten it down to be really secure, you have thousands of alerts per day. If you want to move really fast and create more risk and exposure, you turn the dial the other way. We wanted to say, let's turn it all the way over, but maintain the amount of alerts that really are only the ones that need to go focus on. And so by using machine learning and artificial intelligence and pulling all these different disparate data systems into making sense of them, we can take your alert volume from thousands per day to 1 or 2 high fidelity critical alerts per day. And because we know the trail, because we're mapping it through our data graph, our polygraph data platform. The time to remediate a problem, so figure out the needle in the haystack, and then the time to remediate's 95% faster than what you have to do on your own. So we want to work with AWS and make it really easy for builders to use AWS services and accelerate their consumption of them. So we, one of the first to really embrace Fargate in Graviton. We're embedded in Security Hub, we're embedded in all of the core platforms. We focus on competencies, so we got container competency, we've got security and compliance competencies, and really just want to continue to jointly invest with AWS to deliver a great customer outcome and a really integrated, seamless solution.
I got a lot to unpack there.
Okay.
My first question is, what you just described, that needle in the haystack, you're essentially doing that in near real time?
Yep.
Or real time even, with using AI inferencing?
Yeah, when you're processing all of this data, how do you do so efficiently? And so we're the fastest. We do it in near real time for everything, and compared to our competitors that are doing some lightweight side scanning technology, and maybe they'll do a check or a scan once a day or twice a day. Well, the adversaries aren't sleeping, over the other period of time. So you want to make it as near real time as you can. For certain applications, you get it down into minutes, and ideally over time you want to get it to actual real time. And so there's a number of different technologies that we're deploying and that we're putting patents around to be able to do that as much data as you possibly can, as fast as you possibly can. But it varies on the application and the workload.
And double click on the technology, tell me more about it. What is it? Is it a purpose-built data store? Is it a special engine? Yeah,
there's two primary elements to it. The first part is the polygraph data platform, and this is this ingestion engine, processing engine, correlation engine that has two-way APIs, integrates into your workflows, ingests as much data as we possibly can, et cetera, and unifies all the data feeds that you've got so you can actually correlate and provide context. And security now, in the cloud, and certainly in the future, the real value is being able to create context and correlate data across the board. And when you're out buying a bunch of different companies that have different architectures that are all rules-based engines and trying to stitch them together, they don't talk to each other. And so the hard part first that we wanted to go do was build a cloud-native platform that was going to allow us to build applications that sat on top of it and that handled a number of different security requirements. Behavior-based threat detection obviously is one of the first services that we offered because we're correlating all this data and we're creating a baseline and we're figuring out what normal is. Okay, well, if your normal behavior is this, what's abnormal? So you can catch not only a known bad threat, with rules, et cetera, that are embedded into our engines, but zero-day threats and unknown unknowns, which are the really scary stuff when you're in the cloud. So we've got applications for behavioral threat detection, vulnerability management, where you're just constantly figuring out what vulnerabilities do I have across my development cycle and my runtime cycle that I need to be able to keep up on and sort of patch and remediate, et cetera. And then compliance, as you're pulling all of these data points in, you want to be able to deliver compliance reports really efficiently. And the Biden administration, is issuing all of these new edicts for regulations. Obviously, countries in Europe have been way ahead of the US in some of these regulations, and so they all point to a need for continuous monitoring of your cloud environment to ensure that you're in real time or near real time complying with the environments. And so, being able to hit a button based on all of this data and deliver a compliance report for X regulation or Y regulation saves a lot of time, but also ensures customers are secure.
And you mentioned you're multi-cloud, so you started on AWS.
Yep.
Now, my observation is that AWS isn't out trying to directly, they do some monetization of their security, but it's more like security, here it is, use it, it comes with the package. Whereas, for instance, take Microsoft, for example. They have a big security business. They show up in the spending surveys like, wow, off the charts. So sort of different philosophies there. But when you say you're multi-cloud, you're saying, okay, you run on AWS, obviously, you run on Azure, you run on GCP as well.
Yeah.
We coined this term supercloud, Dave. It's like multi-cloud 2.0. The idea is it's a layer above the clouds that hides the underlying complexity. You mentioned Graviton. You worry about Graviton, your customer don't necessarily have to.
We should be able to extract that.
Right, but that's going to be different than what goes on at Microsoft, with Microsoft primitives or Google primitives. are you essentially building a supercloud that adds value, a layer on top of those hyperscalers?
Yeah.
Or is it more, we're just going to run within each of those individual environments?
No, we definitely want to build the security OS, that sort of goes across the supercloud as you talk about. I would go back on one thing that you said. If you listen to Andy or Adam now talk about AWS services and all the future growth that they have, I mean, security is job one.
Yeah,
right?
sure.
So AWS takes security incredibly seriously. They need to. They want to be able to provide confidence to their customers that they're going to be able to migrate over safely. So I think they do care deeply about
big time.
it and are delivering a number of services to be able to do it for their customers, which is great. We want to enhance that and provide multi-cloud flexibility, deeper dives on Kubernetes and containers, and just want to stay ahead and provide an option for companies, when you're operating in AWS to have better or deeper, more valuable, more impactful services to layer on top. And then provide the flexibility, like you said, of, hey look, I want to have a consistent security posture across all of my clouds if I choose to use other clouds. And the schema are different on all three, all of the protocols are different, et cetera, and so removing all of that complexity. I was just talking with a CISO at our event last night. We had like 300 people at this kind of cocktail event. Boston's pretty cool in the summertime, by the way.
Boston, July is great.
It's pretty great. They're like going, look, we don't want to hire a Azure specialist and a AWS specialist and a GCP specialist. We don't want to have somebody that is deep on just doing container security or Kubernetes security. Like, we want you to abstract all of that, make sense of it, stay above it, continue to innovate, so we can actually do what we want to do, which is we want to build. We want to build fast. Like, the whole point here is to enable developers to do their job without restriction, and they intuitively want to have and build secure applications, because they recognize the importance of it. But if it slows them down, they're not going to do it.
Right.
And so we want to make that as seamless as possible on top of AWS so their developers feel confident they can move more and more applications over.
So to your point about AWS, I totally agree. I mean, security's job one. I guess the way I would say it is, from a monetization standpoint, my sense is AWS, right now anyway, is saying, we want the ecosystem to be able to monetize. We're going to leave that meat on the bone for those guys. Whereas Microsoft, are they sometimes, they're certainly competitive with the ecosystem sometimes, endpoint. They compete with CrowdStrike, no question about it. Are they competitive with you in some cases, or not? They're not there yet? Or
Go talk to George about what he thinks about CrowdStrike and versus Microsoft.
Good point in terms of the depth of capability. Right, so there's definitely opportunities for the ecosystem there as well.
Yeah, but I think on certain parts of that there's higher competitiveness than less. I think in the cloud, having flexibility and being open is kind of core to the cloud's premise. And I think all three of the hyperscalers want to provide a choice for customers, and they want to provide flexibility. They obviously want to monetize as much as they possibly can too, and I think they have varying strategies of those. And I do think AWS is the most open, and they're also the biggest, and I think that bodes well for what the marketplace really wants. If you are a customer and you want to go all in for everything with one cloud, all right, well then maybe you use their security stack exclusively, but that's not the trend on where we're going. And we're talking about a $154 billion market growing at 15% per year. It's a $360 billion market and one of the most fragmented in tech. Customers do want to consolidate on platforms. And if they can consolidate on CSPs, or they consolidate on the super cloud, I'm going to steal that from you, but the super cloud, to be able to have a consistent security posture for all of your workloads, containers, Kubernetes, applications across multiple clouds. That's what we think customers want, that's what we think customers need. There's opportunity for us to build a really big, iconic security business as well.
I'm going to make you laugh, because AWS doesn't like the term supercloud, and the reason is because it implies that they're just the infrastructure kind of commodity layer. And my response to that is, and you'll appreciate this, is Pure Storage has 70% gross margin.
Yeah.
Right? Look at Intel. You've got Graviton. You can have Intel like gross margin. So maybe your infrastructure, but it's not necessarily commodity. But it leaves the ecosystem value, companies like Lacework.
Amazon offers 220 something services for customers to make their lives easier. There's all kinds of ways where they're actually focusing on delivering value to their customers that is far from commodity and always will be. I think when it comes to security, you're going to need security in your database, your storage, your network and compute. They do all of that, monetize all of that. But customers also want to be able to have a consistent security posture across the super cloud. I mean, they don't have time. I think security practitioners and security hiring in general hasn't had unemployment for like 7 or 10 years. It's the hardest place to find quality people. And so our goal is if we can up-level and enable security practitioners and DevSecOps teams to be able to do their job more efficiently, it's a good thing for them, it's a win for them, and not having to be experts on all of these different environments that they're operating in, I think is really important.
Here's the other thing about SuperCloud, and I think you'll appreciate this. Andreessen says all companies are software companies. Well, all companies are becoming SaaS and cloud companies. So you look at Capital One, what they're doing on Snowflake, Goldman, what they're doing with AWS, Oracle by Cerner, that. So industries, incumbents are building their own superclouds. They don't want to deal with all this crap. They want to add their own value, their own tools, their own software, their own data, and actually serve their specific vertical markets.
100%, and they also don't want tools. I think when you're in the security business, it's so fragmented because you had to write a rule for everything and they were super nuanced. When you move to a data-driven approach and you actually have a platform, it removes the need to actually have very nuanced, specific expertise across all of these different, because you're combining it into your baseline and understanding it. And so customers want to move from, one of the biggest banks in North America has 550 different point solutions for security, thousands of employees to go manage all of this. They would love to be able to consolidate around a few platforms that integrate the data flows so they can correlate value across it. And this platform piece is really what differentiates our approach, is that we already have that built, and everybody else is sort of working backwards from legacy approaches or from acquired companies. We built it natively from the ground up, which we believe gives us an advantage, or our customers an advantage of time to market, speed, efficacy, and a much lower cost because you can get rid of a bunch of point solutions in the process.
You mentioned devs. Did you, that continuous experience across clouds, do you have like the equivalent of a super PaaS layer that is specific to your use case? Or are you kind of using, I know you use off-the-shelf tooling, or you allow your developers to do so, but is the developer experience consistent across the clouds? That's really what I'm asking.
Well, I think it is. I was talking to another CEO of a company, on the floor here, and it's focusing on the build side. We focus on both the build and the runtime. And we were talking about, how many different applications, how fragmented the developer experience is with all the different tools that they have. And it's phenomenal. Like it's through acquisition or by business unit, and developers like to have choice. Like they don't like to be told what to do or be standardized, by anybody, especially some compliance organization or security organization. And so it's hard for them to have a consistent experience if they're using a bunch of different tools. And so, we want to be able to integrate into whatever workload, a workflow a customer uses in their dev cycle, and then provide consistent security on top of it. For our own company, we got about 1,000 people, and a lot of them are developers. We want to make that as consistent as we possibly can so they can build code to deliver security efficacy and new applications and new tools for us. So I think where you can standardize and leverage a platform approach, it's always going to be better, but the reality is, especially in large existing companies, they've got lots of different tools, and so you need to be able to sit above it, integrate with it, and make it consistent. And security is one of those areas where having a consistent view, a consistent posture, a consistent read that you can report to the board and know that your efficacy is there, whatever environment you're in, whatever cloud you're on, is super, super critical.
And in your swim lane, you're providing that consistency for devs, but you're right, you got to worry about containers, you got to worry about the runtime, you got to worry about the platform. The DevSecOps team is, becoming the new line of defense, right? They're becoming security experts. And,
absolutely. Well, we have one customer that we just have been working with for 4 years ago, and it's a Fortune, a Global 2000 company, a bunch of different industries, grew through acquisition, et cetera. And 4 years ago, their CTO said, "We're moving to the cloud because we want to drive efficiency and agility and better service offerings across the board." And so he has engineering. So he has dev, he has operations, and he has security teams. And so organizationally, I think that'll be the model as companies do follow Andreessen sort of, quote, become software companies and move on their digital journeys, integrating the functions of dev, sec, and ops organizationally, and then providing a platform, an enablement platform that makes their jobs easier for each of those personas, is what we do. You want to enable companies to shift left, and if you can solve the problems in the code on the front end, before it gets out in the runtime, you're going to solve a lot of issues that exist. Correlating the data between what's happening in your runtime and what's happening in your build time and being able to fix it in near real time and integrate with those joint workflows, we think is the right answer over the long haul. So it's a pretty exciting time.
Yeah, shift left, ops team shield right. Hat, great to see you again.
To see you, Dave.
Thanks so much for coming on theCUBE.
Thanks a lot.
All right, keep
Cheers
it right there. We'll be back. Reinforce 2022. You're watching theCUBE from Boston.